Oi guys, Scrappy again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. OpTic played their first game with Huke back in the starting team instead of Pred, but despite the streams getting back underway, no real explanation as to why the defending world champions have replaced a mega star of their starting lineup with really no explanation at all. As a result, the speculation has continued to run massively rife today on the timeline and elsewhere. Very much interested in your thoughts on the results in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. This was just one example of the many chat summaries we were seeing in the chat today, and for understandable reasons, because if the league, if OpTic don't come out and say anything, the speculation in the scene is going to continue to run wild, and you can debate whether they can say anything based on what we're going to discuss here in a second. Now, the whole gambling piece of the story here, you know, the addiction, that there have been some screenshots that implied from Pred. Look, we still don't know what's true on it. We've not heard any statements about this. OpTic in the watch party today said, like, we're just not going to comment on it. This was a tweet that is pretty interesting, though, from a good couple of weeks ago now. We're talking 27th of November, right, when, you know, people are talking about just the rumours behind the scenes that Pred was not doing the best, you know, on the gambling front. But of course, look, even if that's true, there's two sides to the coin, right? I mean, I even stumbled across this on the timeline yesterday. Thought I'd mention it this evening. This is, you know, December the 8th, 2021. And, well, this was the caption. Now, look, if there was an issue that Pred was suffering with there, if it was stuff entirely out of the game, on some level it wouldn't be too dissimilar to, you know, the Maniac situation, the OpTic Maniac situation. You know, of course he suffered with addiction himself, but to substances, and obviously Hex and OpTic helped him through that process. And you'd imagine that if, you know, Pred was not doing himself any favours betting money on, you know, sports matches or whatever, then OpTic would be in position to say, look, Pred, you know, we've got to deal with this situation. We'll step you aside from the main team. We'll maybe keep paying you some sort of a salary. I don't know. The reason why this speculation has gone next level is because they've unfollowed Pred. Now, the individuals still follow Pred. So, like, you know, Dashy, these guys, they still follow Pred on Twitter. OpTic doesn't. OpTic Texas do not. His affiliate badge is gone. It seems like his contract is over. That's you know, that seems to be how it is. It seems like they've terminated his contract. And even Ace said today on the pre-show we did a few hours ago that he's on his way back to Australia to, you know, see family or whatever. And he, you know, it seems like he's doing that like today or midweek, right? So this isn't like they're just going to work it out. This is Pred's gone from OpTic, and it seems that's basically how it's going to be. And as I say, it would be such a crazy timeline if in like a normal sport, you had the World Championship winning team, one of their star players disappears in the roster and nobody says anything. Like, I do find it remarkable how we go to the CDL broadcast and they're just like, oh yeah, well this evening, Huke's in for Pred, and like, I guess they can't say anything else. But, you know, you've got to feel like there should have been some more discussion on this, and maybe they can't say anything about it. That is the major talking point, right? And this was the tweet that was also doing the rounds today. As I say, I don't know if this stuff is true. I don't know who this screenshot is from, but it's been blowing up. So we're going to talk about it, especially when there's it's radio silence from all the parties in terms of shutting down some of these rumors. So anyway, whoever this guy is says there's an internal investigation as to whether Pred's been gambling on CDL matches. And we kind of hinted at this earlier today that this could be a possibility. Now, I wouldn't say there's evidence on the matter, but there are people saying that the league are investigating this, which is maybe why they don't want to say anything. OpTic don't want to say anything, but it would be an explanation as to why OpTic have seemingly cut ties with Pred, because, you know, if there were match-fixing allegations or anything of that kind of nature, then that's the type of thing that would be unforgivable to players, to teammates, to owners, stuff like this, rather than, you know, another related issue, but nothing on this level. I mean, this is a monumental crash out, regardless of the conclusions. But of course, if this is true, you know, it's over for Pred in terms of his CDL career. Of course, today, people therefore wondering, all right, Huke's in, Pred's not in anymore. They've had a couple of days of practice with Huke in the starting roster. How good are they going to be? Are they going to miss Pred? Clearly, things with Pred weren't looking so good behind the scenes over the last few days. Shotzzy made it clear himself after their victory against Cloud9 that, yeah, their practice isn't so good. I think I've always felt that the relationship between Kenny and Pred, even last year, I don't think was the best. I think there's a good argument to say that this year, maybe for multiple reasons, could be in or outside of the game, that wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. So, yeah, Pred's out of there, Huke's coming in. Obviously, he's pretty ice cold, and we saw that matchup as we'll get into here in a few minutes' time. So let's get into the matches, right? It started pretty interesting. We had Lynz versus HyDra, right? The battle of the French SMG pairing, the battle of Los Angeles as well to some degree, and I thought this was kind of cold. I liked what they're doing here with Gentlemates, the content they're putting out, and sure, is it optimistic to say that, hey, HyDra, he's been the best French player, that reign is coming to an end? Is this like the Eric Ten Hag era's come to an end? Maybe. But look, I was expecting them to come in here and get clapped based on the way that they played last weekend. Not actually true at all. Yes, Thieves get the win, but this was a more competitive series. I know that Thieves believe they didn't play their best stuff, and to be fair, they probably didn't. But Gorillas, okay, Gentlemate, Gorillas Mate, what do they even call them? Gorillas Mate, isn't it? Something like that. It's horrible. I almost have to mute the stream. It's so bad. Envoy clutches up with a big 3-piece at the end. They win the game 1. Eventually it goes to a game 4, and this was an unreal ending to the hardpoints. Like, I thought we had a banger hardpoint the other day with FaZe and Thieves. This was better than that one. Scrappy had 42 kills. Here's HyDra with a couple of kills, and then Envoy sells the game. I think it was Envoy that sells the game. So this is like a guaranteed win. There's no way you can possibly lose this. Yeah, Envoy's in this spot, gets one, jumps down. He actually, okay, gets, no, it wasn't Envoy sold the game, my bad. But somehow they got broken in the hill. But Envoy was selling because he was 16 and 30. He was having a stinker map here. And actually, it looked like Gorillas were going to win it, right? I mean, look at this, 249, 249. How is it even possible? But no, number 2, as HyDra somehow gets in time. Yes, he gets traded, but then Envoy comes in with the 2-piece, guns Kismet for the game. Like, I've never seen a hardpoint conclusion like that. It was absurd. Like, Envoy was getting tucked the whole map. As I say, it wasn't exactly his fault why they lost this particular moment, but, you know, he was still 13 in, like, the 29 or something, but then he goes big at the end. So, funny Envoy moment, right, when he is still going to be prone to the occasional stinker map, as we saw last year, but he does have that dog in him, and, well, the Bulldog gets out-dogged because he wins the 1 versus 1 gunfight for the 250-249. That was wild, and Scrappy says, yeah, not the best hardpoint we've ever played, but we'll see how we go. But as Marky B says, of course, working on the Gentlemate side, the guys have worked very hard this week. They've improved the comms, and to be fair, I mean, look at all the likes and the comments and stuff. There were lots of French fans saying, look, we believe in you guys. Today was a show of decent progress, and like they won the vault control, they lost everything else, but wow, those hardpoints are incredibly tight. I will say as well for Scrappy, he has a 1.22 this series. I mean, obviously, he's there with HyDra as pretty much you'd expect, but look at the damage. Like, 13,500 damage from Scrappy. Like, how does he actually do this? It might need to be studied. No other AR in the game could do what Scrappy does. We then got Cloud9 versus Minnesota Rocker, and I don't like either of these teams. Well, I like Cloud9 a bit more now. Rocker were 2-0 last week somehow. I don't really know how they did it. I didn't rate them very highly, but I did think here a Game 5 win was plausible. Unfortunately for them, ParlayG has the stinker of all stinkers map 1. He goes like 13 and 32 as an atrocious map, and then Cloud9 clutched up the search as well. There was, of course, a lot of talk about the servers last weekend. Trey was saying on our pre-show that he believed that situation had been resolved. So, seems like they were playing on a better server today, and they came in and pretty much just slapped him around. I will say the most impressive player so far on Cloud9 has been Mack, and that very much impresses me, right? I mean, Mack, of course, stepped away from competing, didn't even play last year, comes back in this season, and has done a stellar job so far, it's got to be said, for the Cloud9 New York. Attaches, we conquered the Denver server, so it seems like they resolved the issues with the server, maybe after the backlash, they worked on it, now they can play that server. and they can have good results. Now, it's Minnesota Rocker, so, you know, I still want to see how good Cloud9 are going to be against the better teams, but to be fair, without some of the server cheese, they did look today like a substantially more competent outfit. Yes, they got clapped in the Vault Control, mainly by Nero, but apart from that, I mean, again, Sib at a 0.75. You've got to think he's turning that around at some point, and it was Mack and Kremp today that did a pretty solid job. So congrats to Cloud9, they get their first victory on the board of the season. We then got this very interesting series. Miami, I want to like this Miami team and believe and have faith in them. The problem is they just suck at search and destroy. Like, it's just bad. And fair play to Boston capitalizing on it. They take the dub 3-2. Awakening was very impressive this series, as to be honest, I will say, were Purge and Snoopy. I do like this Boston team. I like the Miami team too. Like, I want to see them work. I do feel like bringing in Super is going to be what they're going to have to do. But and they lost game 1, game 2. They nearly brought the reverse sweep back Miami, but they didn't. They lost the Skyline and the rewinds very comfortably. I think Snoopy was more impactful than his 0.94 suggests. I've been impressed by him so far. We did discuss on the Breaking Point show a couple of weeks ago who's maybe going to be most improved player of the year. I think Snoopy's going to be a candidate for that, to be honest, because Boston have already now played a few game 5s and they've won a couple of them. They weren't doing that last year. So yeah, I think this Boston team has potential. It's nice to see them get a good couple of results on the board in the game 5s. But let's talk about OpTic with Huke, right? Because Huke comes in, no pred. Again, I mean, the league is like, oh, well, yep, I guess the world champions are just making a change. And I don't know why that would potentially be. What a wild time we live in here. But Huke comes out the gates, not playing especially well, but it was Dashy delivering the goods. And this is what I said about Dashy. I think this is a real year for him to have an absolutely stellar performance. Shotzzy, to be fair, is probably going to be the MVP of OpTic this season. It's tough to imagine otherwise, but Dashy was so good today, as was Shotzzy seemingly as always. And when it mattered towards the end of the series, once OpTic really warmed up into it, they were flying and frying, as you would expect from this lineup. Online, these guys are going to be scary, and I made a tweet shortly after the series as well. In my opinion, Shotzzy and Pred is probably a sub-duo with the highest ceiling, right? When they're on, they're really on. We know that Pred brings the energy on LAN, stuff like this. I'm a bit concerned about that for OpTic come at a LAN environment, but on this specific game, with the way that it plays and the way that Huke has been thriving so far and Shotzzy's experience with him in the past, I think on this specific title, Huke may well be a better fit with OpTic right now. In the long term, it may not be working out for the best, but what can OpTic realistically do? They lose the game 1 though, very close fought affair. Kenny had a real bad one though, game 1. He was like 28 in 41 or something, and Abuzah dropped the new kill record. 45 frags he dropped at the end of this one to break the record of the game so far, but this was really impressive to me because I expected OpTic to bounce back and be pretty, I thought they'd be better at search with Huke than Pred. I think that was reasonably obvious. Pred's not the best in the game mode, really. Huke had a great map here, as did Dashy, and they destroyed Surge on the search and destroy, which is not something that OpTic have done a lot of, to be honest. Even last season, not something they did all that much of. So that's an impressive sign of things to come, especially from a very good search and destroy team on paper in the Seattle Surge. This was, well, maybe the least said about this joke here from Ziddy, the better. But then the control was particularly telling. Dashy was absolutely cooking this map, and this was pretty much the moment where I thought, okay, this series is over. Dashy gets 1, slides into the point, probably Surge to do a better job here getting rid of him, just based on the angles, but I like the play that Dashy makes. He gets behind the van, his teammate Kenny goes down after he gets the first kill, and Dashy, despite not having all the health, guns him down for 10 HP, hits a little backslide as well. That was good enough to win the game 3, and then this was good enough to win the game 4, as I'll show you right about now, especially from Huke the Nuke. I mean, here he goes, gets 1, gets 2, sliding backwards on a 5-3, because to be fair, there are OpTic fans in the chat saying, oh, well, Huke's not really performing here, not really showing what we expected, but look, we know what Huke's capable of, and he was absolutely flying around the map, dealing some serious damage, but to be fair, so were the entire team. Kenny, Shotzzy, Dashy, all played well in this one, and they nearly put these boys in the 100-point club. So I think it's definitely an impressive start for this OpTic team. The drama will continue, I'm sure, over the coming days, but look, a 1.33 for Dashy, a 1.4 for Shotzzy, a 1.1 for Huke in his opener. That is not bad at all. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.